There is a famous saying, your habits determine your future. And there are countless instances in the history where success was highly interlinked with good habits. In this video, I am going to show you exactly how you can build better habits and also how you can break the bad ones. Building habits is not a new idea. When we were children, our parents and our teachers would tell us that build better habits. And as you get older, and if you are someone who want to be successful, who want to be happy, it is extremely important to have good habits. So in this video, I am going to show you the secrets from the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, where he is sharing this 4 simple step formula to build good habits. So let's get started. In 1898, a psychologist named Edward Thorndike, he conducted an experiment with cats. He would place cats inside a box and he would arrange a lever to be pressed on so that the cats can escape the cage. So initially when he started the experiment, cats would take around 3 minutes to figure out that there is a lever inside the cage that would let him run loose. So the cat would press on some of the loose ends, try to put the claw outside the cage, and eventually he presses the lever and runs out of the cage. And as soon as he runs out of the cage, he is served with a bowl of food. So in this experiment, the cat's learning actually starts when he gets out of the cage, and as soon as he gets out of the cage, he is rewarded with a bowl of food. Now, when Edward Thorndike repeated this experiment, the timing went from 3 minutes to 6 to 3 seconds. So, as soon as the cat was put inside the cage, he was relentless to get outside the cage and eat the food. So, from this experiment, he concluded that behaviors with positive consequences are repeated, and the behaviors that are having bad consequences are less likely to be repeated. So we can clearly say that a habit is a behavior that is repeated thoroughly, that it becomes automatic. Now if we look at the experiment, we can see a similar thing with our own habits. Let's say we have a habit of eating junk food. What happens when we eat junk food? We eat junk food and there is a sudden rush of salt, fat, sugar, and it hits the brain, and the brain releases a hormone called as dopamine. And dopamine is a very feel-good hormone which allows us a type of reward. So this is a loop actually. So there is an activity or a behavior of eating food, and then you are rewarded with a dopamine hit. So the brain always tells us that you need that dopamine, and we end up in a loop of eating food, getting the reward, and it goes on and on. So that is actually habit. And in this book, James Clear is sharing the 4 simple method of building great habits, and also this system can be used for breaking the bad ones. So let's move on to the first law. The first law is make it obvious. There are a lot of stories that are mentioned in this book, but I am not going to be explaining everything here. I am going to cherry pick the most important stories so that you get inspired and read this book. I am going to be leaving the Amazon link where you can purchase this book. So if you want to read this book, you can go ahead and check that out. In the 1700s, there was a French philosopher named Denis Diderot. He lived his life in poverty, and his daughter has come to an age, and he wanted to marry off her, but he did not have any money. So he was also the author of an encyclopedia which was very prominent during that age. The Empress of Russia, who happens to be a avid reader of his encyclopedia, she happens to hear Diderot's financial trouble. So she buy the entire collection from Diderot for around £1,000. So that will be around $150,000 in today's value. So suddenly Diderot had a lot of money with him. So with that money, he was able to marry her daughter off, and he still had a lot of money with him. So with the surplus money, he bought a very beautiful looking scarlet robe. So after Diderot bought this scarlet robe and he went back to his home, he realized that his room was actually really dirty, and the carpet was really bad. The walls have been rusty, and he felt a really discomfort. So just by purchasing a new robe, he happens to realize the environment that he was in, and he then goes on to buy and renovate his entire home. So that is the story. James Clear talks about a simple method called as habit stacking. Let's say you have a habit of drinking tea first thing in the morning. Now you also want to develop a habit of meditation. So this is just an example. So what you need to do is, with help of habit stacking method, you promise yourself that every day after I drink my tea, I would meditate for 15 minutes. Now you can see that you are connecting two habits together to build a new habit. So it is your habit to drink tea, and every day when you wake up and drink tea, it reminds your brain, or it reminds yourself that okay, now it is time to meditate. So habit stacking is one of the important tips James Clear gives us in order to build good habits. The second law is make it attractive. Have you ever wondered why the packaging of fast food is so tempting? As humans, we are attracted to temptations, and the marketers and human behavior scientists that are working in these large corporations that make this fast food spend a huge amount of time trying to figure out the right contrast, right combination of crust and that gooey cheese that is on top of the pizza to make us eat that over and over. So James Clear tells us that if you want to build better habits that are difficult, you have to make it more attractive. So for example, if you want to cultivate the habit of reading news, he tells us that you have to bundle that habit with something you enjoy. So in the earlier example, he already talked about drinking coffee, and right after that we would meditate. So in this case, what we need to do is we have to promise ourselves that while I am enjoying my coffee, I would go through the important news. So this way, when you are having your cup of coffee, you are always reading the news. So this is another method how you can build good habits. The third law is make it easy. Imagine you are holding a hose and you are watering your garden, and there is a bend in the middle. So you want to increase the rate at which the water is passing through the hose. You have two options. The first one, you can crank up the valve and force out more water, or you can simply remove the bend in the middle so that the water can flow faster. This analogy is very similar to habit formation. So if you are trying to crank up your motivation every day to pursue that habit, it is going to be very difficult. Obviously, it can be done, but there is a lot of friction involved. But if you make it easy, it is like removing the bend in the hose. For example, let's say you want to create a habit of going to the gym and working out for 1 hour. And we all have a busy life. We go to office, we come back, and in between we are commuting for 1 or 2 hours. So how can we make this habit easier? So James Clear tell us that you have to find a gym which is on your way back to your home. So every day when you are going back to your home, you are able to see the location of the gym, and it automatically inspire or motivates you to hit the gym. But if we are going to select a gym which is on the other side of the city and it requires a lot of travel, the friction to pursue that habit increases, and we tend to avoid going to the gym, just thinking about I need to go more distant from my home. So as per the third rule, in order to build better habits, you have to make it easy. Law number 4: make it satisfying. In the late 1990s, a health worker named as Stephen Luby went to Karachi, Pakistan. There was a health crisis during that time, because it was one of the least livable cities during that time. There was no waste removal system, there was no electricity, no clean water, and there were mosquitoes, and the environment was completely unlivable. And he went there and he wanted to create a habit of washing hands, and he and his team did a survey and found out that almost everyone knew about the benefits of washing hands, but no one was doing it. And when they inquired more, they found out that they were using normal bar soap, and what they thought was the environment make it less convincing that washing hands would create a major change in their lives. So Luby partnered with Procter and Gamble, and they decided to supply a neighborhood with Safeguard premium soap. So that was it was a gel form soap. So when the people of Karachi started using it, they were really enjoying washing their hands. Like, it was creating a huge foam, it smells great. So after 5 years, when he returned back to Karachi, he was surprised to see that almost all the households were washing their hands with this soap. So the same thing is with chewing gum. Chewing gum existed throughout the 1800s, but until the company called Wrigley's started putting fruit flavors and spearmint flavors, people actually started to eat chewing gum more. So suddenly, chewing gum was more pleasurable. It was connected with good mouth, and it was enjoyable at the same time. So according to the fourth law, James Clear tells us that to build better habits, make it pleasurable. We talked a lot about building better habits, but how can someone break their bad habits? So one of the simple methods that are discussed in this book is about identifying yourself with a habit. Let's consider a smoker. You may be having friends that smokes every day, and whenever you ask them, "Man, you quit smoking," they would always say, "Yes, I am trying to quit smoking." So let's consider two scenarios where he is offered a cigarette, and in the first scenario, he's saying that, "No, I am trying to quit smoking," And the second scenario, he says that no, I am not a smoker, thank you. So in these two scenarios, the way he responds actually impacts his behavior. In the first scenario, he's more likely to smoke in the future, but when he says that he's not a smoker, that removes the entire probability of smoking. This can be applied in different scenarios. Let's say you want to run a marathon. Instead of thinking about running the marathon, you identify yourself as a runner. Or if you're trying to complete reading a book, for example, you want to read Atomic Habits, instead of thinking about reading this book, tell yourself that you are a reader. So identifying yourself with a habit actually make it easier for you to pursue or to stop break a bad habit. So that's it for today's video. I hope you get something valuable from this book. I encourage you to read this book, or since we are all battling with good habits and bad habits, I wish that you build better habits and become more successful in your life and be happy. Make sure that you subscribe to this channel, so I make more videos, and I also take you on my growth journey, and we can see what is happening.